what's the situation?
In fact, we have by law and by election, by the mandate of the people in 2018, all the MPs who were elected on the card and ticket of the MDC-Alliance. But what we have seen is lawfare, the abuse of the courts by politicians, in this case Mr. Mnangagwa, to try and withdraw, recall, through his created surrogates, whom you know, to then say, as far as they are concerned, all MPs of the MDC-Alliance belong to the MDC-T. So because a lot of our MPs and a lot of our councillors are people who are looking for opportunities. In fact, I've learned from what has happened that instead of having people coming across as change seekers, change makers, change agents, they're actually job seekers. So the preoccupation is to preserve a job as an MP. The preoccupation is to preserve a job as a councillor. That has taught me a lesson, that we need to revisit the whole aspect and concept of our representatives. That's why now I'm apologizing to the people of Zimbabwe to say that we have not thought through the processes of our candidate selection process. That's why we have to go back to the drawing board, so that we do not have party candidates, but a community candidate, a collective ethic, a converged approach that is driven by the community, driven by the stakeholders and opinion makers in a community, as opposed to just a political party. Because these processes produce candidates or individuals who do not have their loyalties in communities and to the people. So I've discovered that. So you would find that most of the MPs and some of the councillors who have remained in Parliament on account of allegiance to a step party or a counter party formed by Mnangagwa have not shown loyalty. And we are going back to the drawing board, doing an audit, constituents by constituents, word by word, of who is with the people and who is against the people. And once we have done that, we'll be able to authoritatively tell people of Zimbabwe where we are in terms of MP.
Linjani, Magadi. Hello. Today is Wednesday, the 21st of July, 2021. And today's Watchlist person that we are speaking of is the leader of MDC-Alliance. MDC standing for Movement for Democratic Change Alliance. And this is the president, Nelson Chamisa, for MDC-Alliance. The Zimbabwe's Obama, the charismatic man, the young tech, the new and upcoming individual. Right. We will come back to why we call him Zimbabwe's Obama in a second when we get into an analysis. But Ndiani huyu Nelson Chamisa? Well, Nelson Chamisa was born on the 2nd of February 1978. Current politician, is a lawyer by profession. He is the current president of the Movement for Democratic Change Alliance, but his title right now is up for grabs with Monzor. He has served as a member of the House of Assembly for Kuwadzana East. He was MDC-Alliance candidate for president in 2018, the general election. Before that, he had been a leader for the youth. On the 31st of March 2020, after he lost to President E.D. Mnangagwa, the Supreme Court of Zimbabwe ruled that Nelson Chamisa was not the legitimate MDC leader in a judgment that ended up basically burnishing what Thokozani Khuphe, who was the current MDC-T leader, had been saying all along about what Chamisa did. Now, we'll go back to that as well. Chamisa is a former chairperson for the MDC Youth Assembly. He was elected as an MDC spokesperson at the party's Congress in 2006. This guy lost, well, let me not talk about that first. He has been MDC. This is the time when Changira was still alive. This guy was the party's organizing secretary, right? And before, the person who had that post before him had been Elias Mudzuri. We are going to discuss him, so I wanted to make sure that I mention it here, that before he became organizing secretary, Elias Mudzuri had been the organizing secretary. Elias Mudzuri has also been the guy agamboita changes to Harare City Council. So I just want you to put it into perspective who we are talking about here, right? While he was in parliament, he was the chair for portfolio. He was on the defense committee. He was also on the home affairs committee, the public accounts committee, gender and youth and transport committee, transport and communications committee. He's been there. He's been making moves. He was a move before that. He was he's part of the camp here, student leaders. This guy has never been a trade unionist, so we just want to throw that out there. Those who have listened to the MDC podcast we did, go back and listen to that one before we get into the analysis. Right. He was there as a cabinet minister from 2009. He was designated as the Minister of Information and of Information, Communication and Technology as part of the National Unity Government. So he served his full term from 2009 to 2013. He was also, as we said again, he was an organizing secretary. While he was organizing secretary, he lost to Douglas Monzora as organizing secretary. Again, remember that name, Douglas Monzora. So he lost to Douglas Monzora in 2014 for the position of organizing secretary. Right? But Tsvangirai then went on and made a move of making him a vice president, which is again something we're going to discuss as we continue down this path. So this is who we are talking about. Challenged the election from ED. He lost it to ED. Besides that, he has a bachelor's degree in political science and public administration. Then he went on to get a law degree from the University of Zimbabwe. He is a fully qualified lawyer. And from what we've heard here, the podcast, he's a pretty good lawyer. He's a decent lawyer. He's actually very well above average. Boys Detonas. If he wasn't a politician, you would consider him Boys Detonas. My lawyer who gets shit done. It's not just about how smart he is with his law degree, but he knows how to work the system. Apparently, Chamisa is one of those guys who's considered a guy who knows how to work the system. He worked for Harare law firm Atherstone and Cook since 2014. Besides that, he's obtained a degree in Pentecostal theology from Living Waters Theological Seminary of Harare. AFM, yeah, kind of for my court hearings when people were trying to establish who really is supposed to be the leader for the Apostolic Faith Mission. So we want you to take into consideration where he got his theological degree from. So, my comrades, this is the man we are discussing today. A lawyer, a political scientist, young Turk, the current MDC-Alliance president, who's right now going with the CCC change convergence narrative. But we all know that the CCC actually stands for Chamisa Chete Chete. They're in a limbo right now. Now, we just talked about the basic steps about who this guy is. Now we want to get into detail. This guy is young. He's the generation 40, if we were to put it like that. He's a 40-year-old guy who's made a lot of missteps. We've seen this guy's rise because unlike all these other politicians we speak about, this guy, we actually here the Revolutionary Star in our staff saw him in action. 2018 Takatiri Papa ground. So unlike when we do other watchlist individuals such as President Idi Mnangagwa or Chiwenga and so forth, where Tangatisiko Kuhondo, it's different for us to comment. This guy Tangatisiko background, and we can discuss about who he was as a leader. First and foremost, Chamisa is definitely charismatic. Is definitely charismatic leader, enigmatic, and people just like him generally. Mpana akachangamuka, and people like him. He's a very likable individual. Very, very likable. Very likable. However, that ends up giving him more credit than he is due. Because although he's charismatic, he is also he lacks substance. And you sometimes get confused thinking that since he's so charismatic and appears so smart, Muna substance. Gentlemen, this man has no substance. Chamisa has no substance. And we're not talking about this from a revolutionary stance, or if we are saying we're ZANU-PF. No, we are just discussing the individual. He has no substance. Most of the mistakes that he's made show that he has no depth, but he can get shit done. So if he had a good team, it wouldn't be a problem. But he can't pick a good team, or he can't get a good team running, which again shows that he's not a good leader, because he can't even manage his own team, right? This is where you see the difference between a person such as Morgan Tsvangirai, who may not have been as charismatic or as eloquent as Chamisa, but had depth and was willing to learn. Not what I said, Kadas. Willing to learn. This is a guy who learned on the job and realized, ina hapana zvandinoziva, but ndine shungu dzokuda kugadzira nyika. And he learned. Chamisa is not like that. Chamisa is charismatic. He's a youth. He was under the wing of certain people. He now thinks ndashika stage here yokuti nda leader. So he doesn't listen. The team that is there, unfortunately, it appears as if he listens to the last person who was in the room. So he is continuously making mistakes that are structural. Not political, but structural. This is why we are likening him to Obama. Barack Obama was a very eloquent and charismatic leader, but truth be told, this man did a lot of damage during his 8 years. Obama did not do anything for the betterment of not only African Americans, but Africans. George Bush did a way lot better than what Obama did for Africa. Obama actually assassinated his own citizens in Africa. I just kutaura the people who were killed on a day-to-day basis in Africa or by Obama. But we're talking about US citizens were also assassinated by drone strikes. Drone strikes increased under Obama's reign, but people always forgave him. Mdara uyaipiwa forgiveness day in, day out. Obama. This is Chamisa. Chamisa is in the same light. Now, we're not going to say he's the one who brought sanctions. We'll give him a pass on that one because he was only Kuma youth then. That's BT's department. But he was a youth, and you'd parrot whatever was being said about Zidera and so forth. But when it comes to the Western world, he is not one of the big boys. The big boys are the BTs and so forth. He was being grilled during the 2017 when he went on the hard talk and so forth. They were trying to gauge the temperament of who he would be as a leader, and he failed dismally, right? He's prone to hyperbole. He's prone to make over-promising on things, and his core base believes that he has a plan. Unfortunately, he doesn't have a plan. This is not hate, comrades. This is just what it is. When you see this man quiet, it's because hana plan. Mdara hana plan. Right? He is reacting to what is happening to him. That's when he gets a plan. Right? That's what's going on. And unfortunately, the most worrying and troublesome thing about Chamisa's leadership is that he knows he's liked. And it seems that's his plan. The fact that we didn't know anyone. Yeah, that's about it. Is there anything else? No, that's it. That's not a leader, comrades. A leader being a leader is not a popularity context, my comrades. We are using him as an example. On our end of the fence, it's never a popularity contest. This is one of the reasons why he's having such a hard time understanding President Idi Mnangagwa, a guy who's used to failure. He's lost several times. This man has got a thick skin and is not called Garwe just because, he's deadly. It's thick-skinned because he's had so many failures and losses in his life that he has political experience, which is if I had a choice between political experience and being liked, I would pick political experience any day. This guy, if he becomes president, he's going to learn on the job, but he already has an ego. This is why we're not failing to understand. This guy has an ego already because he touted himself as the chosen one. After he touted himself as his chosen one, he's failed to deliver within his own party. Atisati tapinda into national politics and into how does this affect a citizen who doesn't care whether it's ZANU-PF or MDC. No. Atisati tapinda ego. Let me go deeper. Chamisa hasn't done anything. The minute he became the president for MDC-Alliance, he started basically imposing candidates in constituencies and wards within his party during primary electing. Then he started purging trade unionist leaders and veterans from Morgan Tsvangirai's heydays and replacing them with student leaders or those aligned to him. He did this just before elections, which is how MDC-A and MDC-T split, and the vote got split and ZANU-PF ended up winning in certain areas where it was supposed to lose. That is Chamisa's fault, comrades. You can't blame ED. You cannot blame ZANU-PF. It's incompetence. If you are going to purge, listen, if it's politics, right? And if it is about political parties, yes. If you are a new leader, just like any job, if you are a new manager, when you purge, you are entitled to do that because you need a clean slate. You need to work with your people. But timing is everything. You have to do it in a specific time. This guy did it just before elections. That is a rookie move. You don't do that. You don't do that. Right? He could have worked with the old guy that he had at the time and then he purged after the elections. Right? So, why is this important? His purging and everything he ended up doing ended up making him lose parliamentary seats. This is what ended up. When you hear this guy talking about lawfare, it's his fault. He started purging people who were running for either councillor or MP in my constituencies. By doing that, it had a ripple effect whereby he split the ticket. So therefore, people who saw with Abapaitwa imposed the constituency would go and then they would either run as an independent or they would run as an MDC-T. So you'd have MDC voting base split along 3 individuals. But ZANU-PF would always have a ZANU-PF candidate. So that's how ZANU-PF would end up winning. He did that. He lost parliamentary seats for MDC Ariega by 1. Right? He couldn't even have a sit down with Thokozani Khuphe to try and figure out a way out of this. He couldn't even do that. Right? So this is why we are mentioning this, because these ripple effects is because a cult personality had already been created for this young charismatic Obama. So he thought kungo wina as a president zese zinongo gatsirika. Right? And he lost. Right? Okay, let's give him the benefit of the doubt. Let's say he won, right? But still he lost because the Supreme Court said he lost, right? Fine. This is frustrating, comrades, because some of the things that they blame ZANU-PF are not ZANU-PF's fault. Incompetence. This is just being incompetent. Some of the constituencies didn't even have election agents, my comrade. And I see them as election agents for some of his own MPs in certain areas within Zimbabwe. But when it came to him, Chamisa Chete, President Chamisa, and he lost. So that it was all about him. It wasn't about anybody else. It was about him. So okay, alright, fine. You lose. ZANU-PF gains parliamentary majority. Now all of a sudden, when all of these statutory instruments and acts are being made, you want to blame ZANU-PF again. When you put yourself in that situation, come on. If you know that whether or not, okay, these people, let's talk about in long-term thinking. You've heard us discuss this with Uncle Sekuru before. Myopia. MDC always says ZANU-PF wanoriga my elections. Okay. Let's go with that argument. Let's use that train of thought and see where it takes us. If you are saying ZANU-PF always rigs elections, that means Pamuruku Pinda for this election in 2018, you know ZANU-PF is going to rig, right? So you are expecting ZANU-PF to win. Why then are you putting all of your baskets in just the executive position, Chamisa? Because your long-term thinking and the same arguments you use that ZANU-PF rigs, you know that Chamisa is going to lose and Mchai challenge a court. So that means you want to make sure that my MPs in US Akawanda Apinda, so that at least he's the official leader of the opposition in parliament, while he is lodging his case with the Supreme Court about losing the presidency to Supreme Court. But you control one of the branches of Zimbabwe's pillars of power, which would be the legislative branch. The legislative branch would control it. That is just basic, comrades. He didn't do that. But this guy is smart. He's a lawyer, he's a political scientist, and he has people just as smart as him surrounding him. So what is it? It's got nothing to do with intelligence, comrades. This guy is smart. It's his ego. It means this guy has an ego. Now, combine an ego with naivety, and this is what you get. Which is again why we go back to Zimbabwe's Obama. Charismatic, good on paper, sexy, but no substance, no depth. Look at the people that he has been at loggerheads with. Manji is going to be at loggerheads with BT. I'm sure he's going to be at loggerheads with Sikala. He's been at loggerheads with Komichi. He's been at loggerheads with Mudzuri. And the biggest guy who he has been at loggerheads with is Monzora. Of course, Monzora has his shady side. But look at the trend out of all the people we've mentioned. These are veterans, comrades. Vanhu vagara mu game of being opposition. They have experience. And they are key elements of what you need when you're trying to come up and make a team. Yes, you may be rivals, but a team. Listen to one of our previous podcasts where we told you that ZANU-PF members don't get along. There are a lot of people in ZANU-PF who do not like each other. They come to blows all the time. But when the party says it's time to work, it's time to work. If you don't want to work for the party because wakamaka uyu tengesi, out. That is a key difference. But the party is always encouraging good no, but my comrades. But but it should never be more than the party. If the party is an agenda, you follow the agenda. That's it. That's where the problem is there. Now, why are we highlighting this gentleman? This gentleman is the heartbeat of Zimbabwe. Anodiwa. Let's call it as it is. Zimbabweans love him. He was a golden boy. No one knows my golden boys are. Right? Young, smart, Zimbabwean taught, rags to riches story. You know, he's never been given anything in his life. He had to work for everything that he had in his life. Who wouldn't love that? Who wouldn't love somebody who's worked for everything he's had in his life? He's never had a handout. Right? Even us here at the Revolutionary Star, this is what we talk about all the time about we need people who work. That's who this man is. Right? But that doesn't make you a leader, comrades. That as never going to be a leader because you have a rags to riches story. No. Some of us, we are on podcasts because we know we can't lead. And passion, yes, we deny your passion. But can we lead? No, we can't. Play your role. Now, are we saying that he's not a leader? No, he could grow into a leader if he takes out his ego, which he has. After he loses to ED, he says, I don't want to be in Poland. Fine. You may think that you are better than all these other political parties, than Nkosana, Moyo, and so forth. All right, fine, we'll give you the benefit of the doubt. You won't even engage with ED. All right, fine, you're not engaging with ED. Fine, I will start on ED. Saka, what else are you going to do if you're not engaging with ED? The demos that you're doing, you are against people getting vaccines. Then you switch and then now you want people to get vaccines. It's almost as if this person listens to the last person who was in the room. And you are always antagonizing people who've been with MDC from the get-go. The things that he criticizes ZANU-PF about are the same things that he's done. Let's look at the current information secretary, Fadzai. She ran as an independent. After she ran as an independent, she got co-opted and automatically she was given a very high-ranking position within MDC. That is a no-no. If you've read the constitution in MDC, what the hell is she doing with a position like that in the first place? That means Bawado Wirirana with the Fadzai with the MP for Mount Pleasant. And she knows, and this is a fact, she's probably going to win Mount Pleasant because she's under the ticket of MDC. But that political expediency of just trying to get a brand name such as Mahere at the expense of veterans within your own organization who've been with you from the get-go. Azitwe in politics. Team yako I team yako. Now, why are we using all of these examples? This guy is a leader of Zimbabwe's main opposition. Kokana aita president, my comrade. And what happens when he becomes president? Kana achita zungu zvakadai so matakanyanya akadai so. Kokana aita president. Au kurana ma ministries. Kana bitari nani? Yes, BT sold the country, Zidera and so forth and all that. But other political experience, but as was singa itwi, haurasisi vanu. But if you look at his age, you look at his ego, you look at the way he put himself as if he was the chosen child of Bogen Changirai, right? And women like him. Yeah, he's a fuckable guy, right? That goes a long way too. And the wakazokanaka church kaana kuke theology ka hawafana kana na makandiwa kayo. God is in it. How can he compete against a man of God? This is a man of God, the man of the cloth. So, what you are forgetting, comrades, is that munagada isoka anonetsa ku criticize. Even your own people cannot criticize you. It's different from ZANU-PF. ZANU-PF kuchka kudzamdara. Kuchka. Right? Which is again, President Idi Mnangagwa has been working so that dialogue should be a little bit easier so that people varipazasi vanokwanisa ku criticize my leaders out. It's a work in progress based from the Mugabe era ukuthi waitya kungopikwa up nemasite. It's a work in progress. Don't get me wrong. I'm not saying ZANU-PF is perfect on that. But ZANU-PF, it's different. People want to criticize within ZANU-PF, but waningwa chichka. Ugo MDC, it's a totally different game altogether. It's not about criticism. They just love him for no reason. When they're seeing with this guy, they don't want to criticize him because they keep forgiving him. This is a guy who keeps getting forgave. Because if we don't forgive this guy, what? He's loved by regular Zimbabweans. 2, he's a man of God. 3, he's young. He's impressionable. So, wisdomed and experienced politicians within his party don't criticize him because they are afraid of the fallout that will happen, the backlash. It's like they are living in a Twitter age whereby if you criticize Beyonce, the beehive will go after you. And this is in politics. That's the problem that MDC has right now. And it's only going to get worse. They're only going to fracture as we speak. Right? Or unless the Nelson Chamisa makes a mistake. But why we have been discussing about Nelson Chamisa is because he is part of the conversation. He is the current president of MDC. Yes, and he is smart. Right? He is from the student union side of MDC. Please go back to our podcast where we discuss about MDC. Right? He's from the student union side of MDC. He's not a trade unionist. He's been purging trade unionists in students. He's been purging them. And he's been surrounding himself with student-aligned individuals. That's why you see Ana Netai Marova, the Cecilia Chembiris, the Fadzai Maheres, the Joanna Mamombes, the Obesitoles, the Ngadziores. They're same students. Apana trade unionist. If you've noticed, apana trade unionist. Kasho magunzwa ZCT, you ya kungotawara in support of Nelson Chamisa that much. Why? Think about it. Think about it, comrades. This guy has been making some political blunders. Now, we're not criticizing him because, he is a young politician. He's only in his 40s. And, as we said before, he's smart. But he's not ready to be president. Come on, dog. This man is not yet ready to be president. Right? I do not agree with MDC, a lot of their policies. But BT would actually make a better leader right now for MDC than Nelson Chamisa. He should have been taking his time to nurture and mature into a leader. Or even allow Monzora or Thokozani Khuphe to be the transitional leader until he developed into the leader that he was going to be. He had a safe seat, Kuwadzana East. There was no rush. The party loved him from the get-go. Those things are not going to change anytime soon. Even right now, if we were to take Chamisa out of politics, who else is more well-liked within MDC than Nelson Chamisa? Right? He takes out all the oxygen in an MDC room. That means the Sikala doesn't get any oxygen, or any other person doesn't get any. That's a problem. That means there is no other person who can take over from Chamisa. But at the same time, he extinguishes the flames in all his other peers who are supposed to help him get into the position that he wants to get into. Right? Which ends up making blunders. He could have taken that leader of the opposition, got himself into the system, while he made sure that, and he should have got the parliament. How the hell does a political party allow itself to lose parliamentary seats and then turn around and blame the party that actually concentrated on getting parliamentary seats when they start making legislative acts that benefit ZANU-PF? How the hell do you do that? The only reason that MDC is getting away with it is because they are liked by Western-backed countries such as the United States and Britain and so forth. That's it. So, we thought we'd discuss it today on this watch list. This person is a player here in Zimbabwe and he's not going anywhere anytime soon. He is the current leader, but we personally don't think he's not going to be a leader for that long because he doesn't have that much gas in the tank yet. He doesn't have depth. He's got the charisma like an Obama, but the depth is not yet there. Makamuona akanyarara. Don't think it is quietly thinking, how am I going to come up with a plan and I've got a Abana plan. Makumreza apana mdara uyana plan. He doesn't have a plan. When he says God is in it, believe him. It's only God who is in it because he is got no idea what else he's going to do from then on. Now, the problem is that he has his peers always bitching at him. Munzora bitched at him. Komichi bitched at him. Buzuri bitched at him. Sikala, we are sure he's also bitching at him. BT, we are also sure he's bitching at him. But what is he doing? He is thinking that what I need is a change in people who surround me, which is why you see him surrounding himself with people like the Fadzema areas. People who don't even know what MDC is. Right? At the sake of people who've been in the game. You don't need to have somebody you like when you're in politics. You need somebody who can get the job done. It's not about a personality thing. That's not how politics works, Kadas. If the liberation struggle had been along those lines where only those who like each other fight together, we would never have won the war. That means most of the time you will work with people you don't like to work with. Chamisa only likes to work with people he likes. Why? Because he's a guy who's loved. He's a narcissist. But he's somebody who we are going to continuously talk about on a day-to-day basis. That's why we had to discuss him here on the watch list. Not because we are saying he's a bad person. No. He's lost. Mwana. But at the same time, he's a leader. Right? Who's not yet ready to be a leader. He decided not to take the time to mature into a leader. He thought the time he had in government and the anointing he was given by Morgan Tsvangirai made him enough of a leader to run an organization. And if it was a corporate society, by now this man would have been fired. He's been making blunder after blunder. Let's take out whether or not we like him as a politician. Let's look at this from a business point of view. This guy has had missteps from the get-go. How he never seems to back his people when they get locked up. Right? He never seems to be there. Whenever these demos are done, he's never there. Gentlemen, talk about a guy who throws people under the bus. But it's understandable. He's not yet ready for leadership, but he put himself in that situation. So now we have to look at him as a leader based on the lack of substance that he has. Will he be able to improve? Well, yeah, the revolutionary star, we will be observing from afar. He has a lot of good people who have the capabilities to be good leaders. But you can only be a good leader if you have something to look up to. So you have a lot of young youth within MDC who have nothing but to look at somebody who thinks God is going to give the solution to MDC's problems. Well, we are discussing this person. He is a Zimbabwean. But if we were to sit here and say he's ever come up with one sound, smart policy, kunyepa makomrade. Kana biti ari nani? BT is not liked. And from a revolutionary point, we don't like BT because he sold the country to the Westerners by pushing for sanctions. This is something that even after we die, we're still going to have our children suffering because of Tendai BT. Right? Because Tendai BT put us in that position with whoever he actually went with to the United States and pushed this agenda. And another reason why we don't like BT is because BT is training new leaders to think like him. Yes, but BT is better than Chamisa. Why? Because at least BT comes up with policies. BT comes up with policies, but policies are not good policies. They are very detrimental to Zimbabwe. But yes, we can have an argument and a debate about BT because BT actually comes up with ideas. This guy doesn't. He's good on paper. Sexy. Right? Women love him. That's it. Is there anything else? No. Who else is like that? Obama. There you have it. If we are wrong, hit us up on our YouTube. Leave a comment on this so we get back to you. If you want us to talk about another specific person, let us know. But we wanted you to know about this guy. Google him. Listen to his speeches. This is great mega. Maybe we are wrong. Maybe we are wrong. Right? We can't even argue, we can't attack him on whether or not this guy is a Pan-Africanist or is a patriot or anything, because he never says anything, comrades. Atitombo zivi who this guy is. Atizivi. Why is that? Well, let us know. However, he is the current leader of the MDC Alliance. He does have more clout than Thokozani Khuphe, Monzora, or any other opposition leader right now in Zimbabwe. Without a doubt, this guy is the go-to guy when you're talking about opposition politics. Don't listen to when ZANU-PF tells you that he's a nobody. No, he's the real deal when it comes to opposition politics. He is the current leader. However, any person who's a betting person would tell you that it's not gonna last. It's all fizzle without the pop. But right now, he runs things and things run him when it comes to opposition politics. But he's basing on his likability to win the next election. That's it. He doesn't have any smart policy. He doesn't have an actual systematic framework of how to make sure that his party is entrenched within the Zimbabwean political space. Nothing. Hapana kana policy one. The last time he made a policy decision is when he made Fadzai Harare the information secretary. That is the last time ever since this podcast that he's done any type of move that is policy based. So how here at the watch list can we start talking about this? We don't know whether this guy is a Pan-Africanist or not. What does he stand for? Maybe Tokwanza utaura name. But right now we'd rather debate on BT. Because at least he actually formulates policy. Sikala actually talks about policy. Chamisa? Well, God is in it. This has been Super Cobra. Roger out.